rabbit company. Sleeping in the shade. Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So I have been busy working today. Working in the garden, working in the creek. I was collecting rocks to build another bed. I bought a bunch of plants this morning. I went into the city, went to my favorite nursery that I found last year with gobs and gobs of all sorts of plants. And, Mr. Smith is out of town, and if he never sees them in the pots, then did I really buy them? I'm just teasing. Mr. Smith doesn't care. And, plants are always a good thing. But I needed to add a couple other spots for some things to plant. And so that's why I've been hauling all of the rocks. It's really hot. I've been taking lots of breaks, lots of water breaks and everything else. When I was in the city, it was about 94 degrees. As I came into the mountainous area, the temperature dropped a couple of degrees. It's only around 44-45% humidity, so it's not terribly humid, but it is hot. And it's been, mid-afternoon that I've been out here working. But I was just really anxious to get this stuff done. I will say that some of the plants are definitely going to need some shade cloth though. I'm seeing some stress with these plants with this sudden heat. It just kind of goes back and forth between cool and crazy hot. The squash I had already put shade cloth over. I do have a little bit more shade cloth, so I may pull some more of that out. I did mulch more of the beds this morning. This time I just used leaves off of the ground. Leaves are definitely not sprayed with any sort of herbicide or anything like that. Completely natural, and they will break down into the soil. Now ideally you would want to pulverize the leaves, like take a lawnmower with a bag and collect all that, chop it all up, put it on the top. But you can just mulch it with the whole leaves. That's fine. It'll help insulate the soil and keep some of the moisture in, especially when it's really hot and really sunny and it's raised beds. So I did that this morning. Then I went to the nursery. Then I got back and I started working on all of these. When I'm out here working, you'll probably often see an earbud in one of my ears. Well, even when I'm working in the house, a lot of times I'm working with something in my ear. I just usually only use one so that I'm very aware of what's going on around me. And usually I'm listening to like Bible teachings and things like that. Today I was actually listening to Miss Lori at Whippoorwill Holler. She was doing some cooking. I was listening to her cooking, and then she would get to the end where she was kind of showing how it all turned out, and I would stop and I would look, and there was a couple things I think I may need to give a try. One is her Alabama pecan bread, although it sounded kind of similar to a pecan bread recipe that I already have. I'll have to compare the two. But then there was a pie that just sounded irresistible, and I think she called it Impossible Coconut Custard Pie or something like that, and it just sounded amazing, and I love coconut, so I might need to make that, because like I said, it sounded phenomenal. I'm going to drink a little bit more water and finish getting all the rest of the boulders out of the back of my truck. And then I'm going to take a little bit of a break inside, cool down, and then come back out here and work again later this evening. Good morning, friends. So it is the next morning. I just got done doing chores and I'm getting ready to do a good watering. It is going to be about 95 degrees today, and we haven't had any rain in a few days, so I need to do a good watering. And then once I water, I need to go rake up a few more leaves, because as you can see, I've started mulching with leaves. I have plenty of them. They're free, and I know they're not sprayed with anything, quite frankly. Now, I've had a lot of comments about the pine straw. A few people asking, you know, wouldn't the pine straw cause problems? Wouldn't it make your soil too acidic? And the thing is, I have used pine straw for a few years, and I've had zero issue. The thing about pine straw is, yes, it can add a little bit of acidity to your soil, but it's not going to have a big effect unless you bury the pine straw in the soil itself. This is just on top. This isn't going to do much. And there are plants that actually really appreciate a little bit of acidity, such as tomatoes, blueberries, and other things. And so I am not concerned whatsoever with the pine straw having a negative effect. I think the only way the pine straw is going to have an effect is if there's something on it. You know what I mean? This is the bed that I left all of the original soil in. And as you can see, the zucchini is doing great. I mean, it's growing like crazy. And I see a little baby zucchini right there. Oh, there's another one right there. So hopefully we will get some zucchini to enjoy this year. Now, I planted the whole side all through here with sunflowers, and you can see I've got a bunch of them coming up. I put, I think, like 5 different kinds of sunflowers in here in different patches. However, I will say that this end, I was using my little tool for making the holes, and I might have made them too deep. So I think I'm going to come back out here and reseed this corner down here, because all of these right here I just poked in with my finger, and you know, they're coming up great. So minor error on my part. The beans here, these are the Kentucky Wonder Pole beans, and they're doing pretty well. They are getting hit with some sort of little pest though, so I'm going to come out here and sprinkle them with some DE. These right here, those tomatoes down there are the Splash of Cream tomatoes. They're the variegated kind. I've got some thyme down there, some marigold. This one right here, I don't remember which variety this was. It's been a spring. Can I just say that? Right here I planted some hyssop. These over here are, I think these are actually mortgage lifter tomatoes that I planted. I know those right down there are mortgage lifter, and then I've still got more to plant. My yellow squash is doing good, and I saw, well, I've got a couple baby squashes coming up. I see. Let's see. There's one right over there. If the camera will focus on it. And then there's another one right down in this plant, right down there. In the morning, I've been keeping these uncovered. And then when afternoon rolls around, I throw the shade cloth over it. But this bed over here, because I've had the shade cloth hanging up on top of it, that is actually doing everything I need it to as far as blocking the afternoon intense sun. So I'm just going to clip this up on top of the trellis and just keep it as a wall there. And then I've actually got more shade cloth, and I'm going to come out here and go ahead and put some shade cloth on all of these beds, because it is getting into the mid 90s. That's really, really hot. it's one of the reasons I would always start my tomatoes really early in Alabama, because when it gets too hot, for one thing, the plants will struggle. But the second thing is, if you keep your tomato plants alive, you're probably not going to get any tomatoes, because over a certain temperature, the blossoms will just drop off. The plant is under so much stress from the extreme heat that it's not putting energy into producing fruit. It's going to put its energy into survival. So it's just going to drop the blossoms over a certain temperature, and you're just not going to get anything. So I think putting shade cloth on these beds will be very helpful. And so that's what I'm going to do. This bed over here is one of the beds that I built up with rocks, and I planted NT half-runner green beans in here. I love those. Those are one of my favorite ones to grow. Prolific growers, and I just planted those, so we don't have any seedlings coming up yet. Over here I've got the cosmos that I transplanted out of the bad beds. I've got some hyssop right there. This is my bee balm that is beginning to flower. And this is, another one of the plants that I took out of the beds. Right here I've got a couple of my elderberry starts that I had brought from Alabama. They were about 4 inches tall when I put them in there, and as you can see, they're kind of starting to take off. There's a little bitty one that I put in right there. It's got all sorts of new leaves. So when I get done filming this, I'm going to go ahead and rake up some more leaves and go ahead and mulch this bed. So over here on this trellis, I planted some of the Ricino rampicante squash. That's that big kind of trumpet squash that I grew a few years ago. I absolutely loved it. It's like a giant butternut squash. Over there in that corner, I planted just a little bit of okra, and then I have not planted anything in the rest of the bed yet. Over here with these tomatoes, I planted some melons yesterday underneath the trellis. The Kajari melon, it's one of the melons that I love to grow. I've got some stone crop down there in the corner, a perennial flower. Now, I really wanted to grow Israeli melons this year. Israeli melons and Kajari melons are, I think my favorite ones to grow. I really wanted to grow the Israeli melons because the last time I grew them, they're so prolific, just amazing growers, delicious fruit. I can't find my seeds. I went through all of my seeds. I had pulled them out because I was going to start some, and I don't know where I put them. And I am so upset because the seeds were a gift from one of my subscribers, and it was several years ago. I don't remember who sent them, and I don't know where to get them because I have seen Israeli melons, but I've seen a couple different kinds, and I don't know which it was. So I'm really hoping I can find those seeds and get some started. But if not, I may just have to start buying Israeli melon seeds and trying them out and try and isolate which one it was that I had. Alright, so over here is one of the 2 new beds that I added yesterday. You saw me collecting all those rocks. Right there, I started a rhubarb bed. And then over here, I added another little bed. This one is roselle and eggplant. And, I love eggplant. I have this recipe that I make for an eggplant lasagna. It is so good. But in my experience, eggplant really attracts pests. And so I didn't want to put my eggplant in with my other stuff. And so I put it off to the side, semi by itself. And then we've got my asparagus bed over here, and you guys, this asparagus is going crazy. Oh my word. Now, I had a few comments about the cinder blocks and them being an issue with the heat. Now, I had a cinder block bed in Alabama that I grew my asparagus in. I did mulch the asparagus bed. And as you can see here, I did put pine needles down. And yeah, I do have to water it probably a little bit more than I would the other beds because it is the cinder block and, you know, it can wick the moisture out. In Alabama, I did not plant anything in the little squares around it because I had a second row of cinder blocks on top, because when I put it in, we had ducks living in the garden and I didn't want them climbing in there and eating and tearing up the asparagus. And so I had a second row of cinder blocks on top turned sideways. So I never planted in the little pockets. I will say I'm definitely having to water them well. Hopefully everything will survive. I mean, so far it's looking pretty good. I will say when it's 95 degrees outside and it's full sun, some of the plants are looking a little abused. Like the calendula especially. But I just planted this calendula, and where it was at, it was kind of shaded, and so I think what I'm seeing here is actually sun scald, because it went from a really shady area to full sun. But it looks like there's new leaves coming up in the middle, so I think it's going to survive. And hopefully we get some lovely little flowers. But everything else is looking good. I've got some cosmos blooming, and that one's got a bud on it. This one has buds. This one already dried up, so I'll actually, let me go ahead and pop that one off. There's another one. These are the Rubenzo, I forget. I'll put the name of it in the corner here. Cosmos. I had a ton of these come up. And if you look close, I know it'd be hard to see, but I've got asparagus everywhere. Oh my word. I mean, these have only been in here a week, maybe? And I've got little baby asparaguses everywhere. M.I. Gardner. M.I. Gardner's where I got these asparagus. And man, you want to talk about healthy and ready to do its job. Now, of course, they are baby plants, so it'll take time for them to get established and put off really good asparagus spears. And asparagus has to get established before you harvest it. So that bed will not be harvested as far as the asparagus goes for a couple of years. All right, and then over here we've got another one of my little stone beds that I had put in. We've got echinacea, we've got some little dahlias, we've got a little butterfly bush, and there's a little zinnia down there. I do plan on starting to do regular garden tours, maybe every other week. I don't think I'm going to do them weekly, but we'll see how it's going. We'll see, hopefully, fingers crossed, Lord willing, we have a good garden this year, despite the setback. All right, with that, I'm going to head into the house and make some coffee, because Mr. Smith is out of town again. He travels a lot for his work, and we have a coffee maker with a timer, and it automatically goes on just a little bit before we normally get up in the morning, so we have coffee waiting for us. But Mr. Smith is the one who usually sets up the coffee maker, and guess who forgot to do it last night? So I'm going to go in there, make some coffee, enjoy a cup, and then I'm going to come out here and rake up leaves and mulch those other beds. So thanks for spending some time with me here today. Lord willing, I'll talk to y'all next time.